thing I'd like to point out is I replaced the floor joists and the decking in this room. I have painted the floor. So one of the biggest problems you have as a landlord is pets or spills where people kind of neglect and just they'll get water on the floor and they just leave a mess, and it will soak into like your subfloor. So by painting, like I used exterior paint, by painting the floor you're sealing it, and so it won't saturate into the wood. Cutting this foam isn't real precise. You just kind of rough cut it. You want to check it, make sure you don't have any damaged corners. If you do have damaged corners, you need to put them on the end. So, like if you got a spot in your corner here, you want that piece on that end. If you have a damage on this side, you want it on that end of the floor. That one's good. That looks good. And you do have to stagger these. You don't want the corners lining up. You really don't want any set patterns. Some people think it looks really nice to have all the lines, but it makes the floor weak. You just lock them in. Line them up as close as you can. You push in. Sometimes you kind of wiggle. If you're real worried about it, you can try to get them where like the patterns match up. I'm not real concerned about it. And you actually take it, since this is the way you need to be using this end, we'll actually flip it over. Slide it up against the wall. And then you can just mark right where that is, like right on the money, because there's actually, the ends actually overlap, so it'll end up giving you just a little bit of gap from side to side. I marked it right here. The length. Now these work like an old-time paper cutter. They're very messy, and it leaves a pretty rough edge. But compared to like a chop saw, it's not as noisy or time-consuming. They take a long time to cut through this stuff because of the material. And just make sure it's locked in, give it a good pull. And it's cut. And if you look, see the material here. It's wood chips, recycled cardboard, different things like that. That's what they make this out of. And it leaves a pretty rough edge because you're just shearing it off. But that's a lot quicker. When you try to cut this with a table saw, it really likes to try to burn it. It takes forever to cut through. And here we have a Rockwell. It's a Blade Runner. I have used this so much. It is basically a jigsaw, like a table saw kind of thing. So it has a guide up here to help guide that blade. It uses just a regular jigsaw blade. It is very noisy, like to the point of being annoying noisy, but it does a great job. I'm gonna turn it on here. There, we lock that piece in. We have to do it out this way and then slide it underneath that. Then you start the second row with this piece here that we trimmed for the other side so it keeps it staggered, unlike when you're doing shingles. So see right here, and then I'll start over there. I'll lock these in. I'll trim the piece for this end, and then we'll show how to lock the whole row in. So I do have a couple of these kits. These are what you use to install the floor. This is for hooking if you're trying to pull the floor in, especially towards the end row, to lock the piece in and get it snapped in. Sometimes you got to hook it underneath, or if like later on in the future, like your seam separates, you can hook this on the end and smack this point with a hammer and pop that seam back in. This is for putting up here when we start snapping it in to make sure it's locked in. Put that on this edge, tap it with a hammer. This is a rubber material. You can use like a piece of scrap where you have this locking part. You lock it in here and you can tap it and slide it down and tap it, but you will tear up the piece that you're hitting with a hammer. And then there are some wedges in here, which I always do, where you're going across the shorter distance because the pieces lock in easier. And then if your wall is uneven, you can use these shims to hold this out. I normally only use them if I'm having a problem getting this to lock in, like where the center of the wall is bowed and it's twisting back and forth. I'll put these shims on the ends to put the right amount of pressure so that you can get this locked in. And you will tilt this, slide it up, you'll tilt it up. This other end here, we're kind of limited on how much we can move. When you get under a cabinet, it gets harder. Make sure to, there, see how it's starting under. You can wiggle it. I will likely have to use that piece to pop it in. See, that one's starting. I'll have to use this rubber mallet on this end. And this flooring here that I'm using is left over from someplace else. Sometimes when the flooring gets older, it'll start to bow a little bit. It gets harder to get it to lock in. As it locks in, it'll lay down flat on its own. Here we have that whole piece locked in. Normally your first couple rows are the hardest, especially getting the first part to snap together. And that's what will set it being straight. So you gotta make sure that they're completely locked in. Here we go, we're sliding this up into place. This far end. A little bit of a gap. Put this piece up there. Pops it into place. Full length. Down and then back. Just set a piece of trim. Second row pops together real easy. And you just keep on going with it. Alright, I had to trim just a little bit off there. Back, get under. Want this angle slide it all the way across. Oh, far side here. Alright. Push that in. And sometimes you have to kind of wiggle it up and down as you go across. It might take a time or two going across to get it. You want it where that gap closes up most of the way before you start tapping on it. Just as soon as it locks all the way in, it pops down. Whole piece just locked in. I'll be back when I get most of the floor. Getting down to the end of the day here. Just a little bit left right So right here, we're getting close to the wall. To be able to tap this in place using the regular rubber block, hook this on it. You got to hold it with one hand while you pop it down. You go down the whole side like this to get it popped in. Alright, so like a floor like this, the first couple rows are kind of difficult to get it started, and then normally the last row or any obstructions you have to cut around are difficult. So I'm actually starting. So see how we're here, this door only opens this far. So I either can't put it in the doorway, or I have to open the door, put this piece in, and the piece on this side I will have to lock in and drive it over into the other piece to get it to snap in. So one way to mark, so I line this up with the previous piece, and I just use a scrap piece here, and I come down, and over here on the edge I mark where that is. I marked it right here, right there. I marked where this is at, just like that. That's where we want to stop at. So I marked that point right there, came down to the other end, and did the same thing. It's marked right here. And then I'll use a straight edge and go across them lines, make a straight line, and that's where I cut it out at. And then I'll cut this next section. I will snap these two together and lock them in. Like I said, the piece on the other side of the door, I'll have to close the door, and I'll have to actually like put it in this way, lock it in place, and I'll have to put a pry bar or that drive tool and put in the end and push it over to snap it in. Alright, so here I kind of trimmed it. I've pushed it down into place. Like I said, there's a lot of trim work. I had to recut over here on this corner a couple times to get it to come out the way I wanted it. Let's see here. Catch popping this into place. Up here along the edge, because you're up against this, sometimes you can just kind of tap down and it will put the pressure to lock it in. It'll loosen up a little bit because you have your corner cut at, so even though it's square, when you're trying to put it in, it's at an angle, and then when it drops in, it'll be sitting flat up against the wall. This part here, there'll be a new bottom plate for the door that seals against the bottom of this exterior door.